In this lesson, you will learn how to create and prepare a virtual machine in order to install Windows Server 2016. After opening the Virtual Manager, click on the New button to open the wizard. In the first window, I will enter the name of my VM and select the OS I am going to install. For the name, I will just enter Windows Server 2016. In the Type drop-down menu, I can choose the OS I want to install on the VM. You can select between Windows, Linux, Solaris, or any other OS. I will select Microsoft Windows. There is something I want to clarify. Choosing the operating system will just set up the VM accordingly. It will not install the OS for you. As we will see in the next steps, VirtualBox will help you set up your VM according to the OS type you choose. Next, I will choose the Windows version I am going to install. You can choose from the earlier Windows versions as the 3.1 till the latest version. And if the Windows version you want to install is not present in the list, you can choose other Windows 32-bit or 64-bit. If you don't see the 64-bit in the OS versions, that could mean three things. First, you have an old CPU that do not support hardware virtualization. Notice that modern CPUs supports this feature. The second case is that your CPU do support hardware virtualization, but this feature is not enabled in the BIOS. You have just to enter your BIOS and enable it. The third case, you have another virtualization application already installed on your computer that prevents VirtualBox to use the hardware virtualization feature. It can happen when Microsoft Hyper-V feature is enabled on your system. I will select Windows 2016 and continue. Next, I have to pick the memory size of my VM. VirtualBox recommends 2 GB for this VM. This recommendation is based on the OS type I have chosen in the previous step. I can choose another size by moving this slider. You can choose the memory size inside the interval represented by this scale. The minimum size you can choose is 4 MB, and the maximum, which represents the total memory available on your machine. In this machine, I have 16 GB. In practice, you can't allocate the maximum size because the host OS is already using a part of this memory and hence can't be allocated to the VM. VirtualBox help you choosing the memory size without causing the host OS to slow down by staying in the green zone. For instance, the maximum size I can safely choose in this machine is 11 GB. If I choose more than that, I will shift in the danger zone and will cause my host OS to slow down and even make it crash. The choice of the memory size is based on the guest OS requirements, the memory available on the physical machine, and the number of VMs you want to run concurrently. Think a second about the size of 11 GB I have chosen. If I will set up a second VM with the same memory size, I can start the first VM, but the second one can't be started because of lack of memory. By powering up the first VM, I have already used 11 GB out of 16. The remaining 5 GB will not allow the second VM to start. You will get an error message like this one. For Windows Server 2016, I will choose 4 GB of RAM and click Next. The next step consists of adding a virtual hard disk. You have three choices. Do not add a virtual disk. You can always add it later on. You can create the virtual disk now, or you can use an existing virtual disk if you have one. I will just create the virtual hard disk by clicking on the Create button. Now I have to choose the hard disk file type. The VDI is the VirtualBox native format. VirtualBox supports also other formats, like the VHD format used by Microsoft Hyper-V. VMDK format is used by many other virtualization products, in particular by VMware. I will choose the VHD format so that I can easily use the VM on Microsoft Hyper-V. The next step consists of choosing the amount of disk space to allocate. You have choice between dynamically allocated and fixed size. When choosing dynamically allocated, the hard disk file will only use space on your physical hard disk as it fills up, even if you have set up a size of 50 GB. The size will grow as you fill it out with more data till it hits the maximum size you fixed. On the other hand, when you choose the fixed size option, the hard disk file will be created and will occupy the size you give it on your physical hard disk. For instance, you create your virtual hard disk with a fixed size of 50 GB. This space will be consumed on your physical hard disk even if the virtual disk contains only 10 GB of data. So I am going to choose dynamically allocated and click Next. The next step consists of naming the virtual disk and give it a size. I am okay with the suggested name, which is the same name as the VM. I will leave it as it is. For the disk size, it will be 50 GB. I will confirm that by clicking on the Create button. That's it. My VM is created.